It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Wednesday, February 5th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. A mix of sun and clouds today. High 35. Tonight and overnight, some snow showers roll in. The low going to be 30. And then Thursday morning, we're going to see a mix of sleet and snow in the morning. Could get an inch or two here in the city. Then it'll blow out by the afternoon. We'll have clouds. The high will be 35. If you're walking out the door with us right now, it is 27 and cloudy in Rye up in Westchester County. It's 31 and cloudy in Bordentown over in New Jersey. And it's 27 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. Boy, we got a lot to get to as we work our way up. 6 o'clock hour, Sid and Friends in the morning. Just this bizarre incident taking place outside Grover Cleveland High School in Ridgewood, Queens yesterday. So this 15-year-old kid is horsing around with a bunch of students after class, just doing what, high school kids did. And one of the kids pushes the other kid, and he ends up that his leg pierces a metal spike of a fence. You know those metal spike fences that you see outside schools and other buildings? His leg goes through the spike. And, not only is it sort of a gruesome scene, but of course he starts screaming in pain. Well, thank God for the FDNY, because they come in and they have to figure out a plan how to rescue this kid. They can't just pull his leg off the spike because you need to bring him to the doctors. They got to figure out how to pull out the spike. So they bring in a saw. And they're able to saw through the fence, and they take the kid and the fence to the hospital in what's just sort of a wild scene that took place in Ridgewood yesterday afternoon.
He cut the vertical bars going up, 3 of them, and then he cut the horizontal top piece to keep everything in one piece, so this way you can transport it all together.
So the fence and the boy were put into the back of an EMT, and they raced to the local hospital, and the kid's going to be okay. They were able to pull this fence out. Now, what's so interesting is these firefighters, they had just practiced a drill connected to something like this happening. So they had practiced with bandsaws just last week. So when they were called into this scene in Ridgewood yesterday, they kind of were ready for it. And firefighters say, it's not just fires that they put out. They do a whole lot more.
We just don't put out fires, but this is an example of what we do every day. We're able to extricate this child from the fence and save his life.
Yeah, New York's bravest there. Firefighters describing that the student was incredibly calm during the ordeal, which they say helped them tremendously. It took them just about 10 minutes to rescue him. That 15-year-old, he is in stable condition, and they're telling us he's going to be okay, so we like that. Getting more details from the NTSB about this crash that took place between a Black Hawk helicopter and the American Airlines jet last week right next to Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. Killed all 64 aboard the plane, 3 on the helicopter. And they're basically saying the helicopter was at fault, which was a lot of what the initial speculation was. An Army Black Hawk helicopter apparently was flying too high when it crashed into the American Airlines jet at the airport last week. This from the NTSB. Data from air traffic control radar shows the military chopper was flying at 300 feet on the air traffic control display at the time of the crash last week. The maximum altitude for helicopters in the area, which is also a flight path of jets going in and out of Reagan, is 200 feet. So it was 100 feet higher than it should have been. And the search for all the victims in the crash is over. All 67 now have been found.
Officials confirmed the news on Tuesday. An American Airlines plane collided with an Army Black Hawk helicopter, causing both to fall into the Potomac River. The cockpit and tail from the regional jet were recovered earlier in the day. The crash was the deadliest in the U.S. since 2001. I'm Brian Shook.
And there was a vigil held at the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Museum to honor the 28 members of the figure skating community that were killed in that crash. No doubt you are following this story. They were coming back from a skating camp in Wichita, Kansas, and they were aboard this plane when it collided.
Falling down is part of our sport. With what took place last week, like when you have a tragedy like this hit and this devastation, you have to, just get up and just figure out how to keep going.
That's Justin Dillon. He's the senior director of the Athlete High Performance with the U.S. Figure Skating. They're all, as you might guess, trying to make sense of what took place, and, well, there is no sense to it.
I want everyone to watch the videos that have been posted of all the kids skating, because they are all clips of them just in pure joy.
Yeah, so attendees brought flowers and mementos to pay tribute to all those skaters that were lost. 5:05, let's go down to Washington. President Trump meeting with Bibi Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, yesterday. President Trump says the U.S. should be in charge of Gaza. He wants to move everybody out of Gaza to neighboring countries and rebuild what's there.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it.
Now, whether the U.S. can unilaterally go in and just take over Gaza, there's a lot of questions about that. The president and Israeli prime minister met at the White House yesterday. Netanyahu becomes the first foreign leader to meet with Trump in his second term.
Instead, we should go to other countries of interest with humanitarian hearts, and there are many of them that want to do this, and build various domains that will ultimately be occupied by the 1.8 million Palestinians living in Gaza.
So, of course, the question is, who would take on these Palestinians if they were moved out? Would it be Jordan, Egypt? In the past, none of those countries have shown any sign of wanting to take in Palestinians, so that might be the tough part.
Terrorist jihadists. We've begun the process of deporting foreign terrorist jihadists and Hamas sympathizers from our soil, just as we have people that are extremely evil.
Bibi Netanyahu giving a lot of credit to President Trump for the first part of the ceasefire that's done. That's seen some hostages traded for Palestinians in Israeli prisons.
Israel has never been stronger, and the Iran terror axis has never been weaker. But as we discussed, Mr. President, to secure our future and bring peace to our region, we have to finish the job.
And the Prime Minister laid out Israel's military plans.
In Gaza, Israel has three goals: destroy Hamas's military and governing capabilities, secure the release of all of our hostages, and ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel.
And you could see it was clearly a friendly meeting between the two leaders. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu giving credit to President Trump for the ceasefire deal in Gaza.
I think President Trump added great force and powerful leadership to this effort. I appreciate it.
And what was interesting is he did not mention President Biden at all when he was talking about that ceasefire deal. WABC News Time 5:09. Let's stay down in Washington. The president yesterday said he's instructed his advisors to obliterate Iran if it assassinates him. During a press conference at the White House yesterday, Trump stated if they did that, they would be obliterated.
We will see whether or not we can arrange or work out a deal with Iran, and everybody can live together, and maybe that's possible, and maybe it's not possible.
The memorandum calls for maximum economic sanctions and enforcement mechanisms against Iran. There have been threats against the president before.
That would be a terrible thing for them to do, not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That would be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left.
Federal authorities have been monitoring threats against Trump from Iran for years after the then former, now current president ordered the killing of a top Iranian military leader back in 2020. 5:10, China hitting back against new U.S. tariffs on its goods, announcing yesterday 10 to 15% tariffs of its own on many U.S. products. Correspondent Janice Mackey-Fryer is in Beijing. She says China's also placing new controls on some critical metals and will target Google with an antitrust probe.
As well, two American companies, PVH Group, which owns clothing brands like Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger, and Illumina, a gene sequencing startup, are being added to the unreliable entity list here, meaning they're effectively blacklisted from doing business.
And the move would take effect on February 10th. The economists say they're not expected to have a major economic impact on the U.S., but likely intended to send a message that China will not cave to President Trump's demands.
These measures are not seen as making a huge dent in the U.S. economy, but more so designed to send a message that it could be worse, and in particular for red states. China's leader Xi Jinping doesn't want to be seen as caving to President Trump, the U.S., or the West. China's retaliation was expected, as the U.S. tariffs were on Chinese goods. The uncertainty now is whether all of this is negotiating tactics between the two largest economies in the world or the beginning of a deeper trade confrontation. The tariffs take effect February 10th, but there's more. China's also announced an antitrust probe into Google. This is not the first for the company, which doesn't do a lot of business here because the search engine is blocked.
Yeah, so, of course, by doing it February 10th, of course, they leave a couple days for some diplomacy to take place. 5:12, Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishibu will meet with President Trump in D.C. on Friday. Correspondent Rebecca Bunden reports Ishibu will visit to strengthen cooperative ties between Japan and the U.S.
Following Trump's announcement of tariffs on China, Mexico, and Canada, Japan is concerned about the economic fallout of the move and any further tariffs that may be imposed.
And Ishiba and Trump will probably discuss tariffs and trade.
Other topics that are likely to be discussed when Ishiba and Trump meet include a planned buyout of U.S. steel by Japan's Nippon Steel, which was blocked by the Biden administration. Energy ties and investment will also be on the agenda, with the countries being each other's largest foreign investors.
WABC News Time 513. Lots of talk continuing about the deportations. One of the stories we had told you about yesterday was where New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy had claimed during a meeting with liberal voters over the weekend that he was hiding somebody in his mansion in Middletown who was here illegally. And then the following day, his spokesman pulled back and said that story may not be totally true. Meanwhile, President Trump's border czar is threatening to prosecute the governor now.
So how did we get here? Well, Governor Phil Murphy said he had a woman of undocumented status staying with him.
And we said, you know what? Let's have her live at our house above our garage. And good luck to the feds coming in to try to get her.
Speaking at a progressive forum in Montclair over the weekend, the crowd approved. But border czar Tom Homan on Fox News said, oh, yeah?
So maybe he's bluffing. If he's not, we'll deal with that.
A Murphy spokesperson says the governor never actually made the offer to the woman and that she never moved in, sort of implying it was a hypothetical discussion with his wife. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
And then, there's pushback from sanctuary cities like Los Angeles. The city council members there announcing a series of proposals yesterday that would protect migrants. The plan includes a Know Your Rights campaign, support for immigrants, and they're holding all these different services where they're teaching migrants essentially what their rights are.
Los Angeles will not be complicit. We will use every single tool to protect our residents.
And another proposal that will likely get through the city council there would require businesses to report immigration enforcement efforts to the city. That's so employees can get legal support if their workplace is raided.
Right now, too many of our families are worried because this administration is hell-bent on attacking immigrants. He and his allies are threatening to send ICE to our schools, churches, and communities, anywhere they can spread fear.
Those city council members also saying that the LA economy is built and supported by these migrants.
Los Angeles is a city of immigrants, and we won't stand as the backward administration tries to dismantle the very things that make our city great.
All right, in a moment, we'll tell you about how two of President Trump's cabinet nominations seem to be advancing. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning and happy birthday, Justin Ellick.
Oh, thank you, Noam Layden. Much appreciated. The big 2-9, one away from 30.
That's
so
right.
I guess I should really try and soak in this year, huh?
You should, because it's all downhill after that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great. Looking forward to it.
Mhm.
Well, and you Exhibit A. We've got
Right, exactly. Look at me.
Right.
You can see it's all down. Just look to your left, and you realize it doesn't get any better than 29.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, see you later. All right. Well, we will begin with the NBA action here. Noam in Toronto. Karl Anthony Towns had 27 points and 20 rebounds. Jalen Brunson scored 28, and the Knicks held on to beat the Raptors 121-115 for their 8th win in 10 games. Mikal Bridges and Precious Achiuwa each scored 17 as the Knicks won their 8th straight meeting with the Raptors. Josh Hart added 15 as all 5 Knicks starters reached double digits. Towns had nearly half of New York's 43 total rebounds. The veteran big man has had 22 rebound rebound games this season. He had a career-high 27 rebounds against New Orleans on January 12th, 2019. OG Anunoby didn't play against his former team. Anunoby sat for this second straight game because of a sprained right foot. Coming up next for the Knicks, they'll return home to host the Boston Celtics on Saturday night. In Brooklyn, Keon Johnson and D'Angelo Russell made 3-pointers in the final 10 seconds, and the Nets stunned the Houston Rockets 99-97 on for their first home victory in 2 months. Their last victory at the Barclays Center was on December 4th against Indiana. Brooklyn swept the season series from the Rockets for the first time since 2022 to 2023 season. The Nets were down by 9 points midway through the third quarter and responded with a 14-0 run in which Claxton and Tyrese Martin did all the scoring. Up next for them, they'll continue their 6-game homestand tonight against Washington. Tip-off there is scheduled for 7:30. To the NHL on the ice in Pittsburgh, Timo Meier scored in the 7th round of a shootout to lift the Devils past the Penguins 3-2. Up next for Jersey, they'll host Vegas come Thursday night. In Elmont, Brock Nelson snapped a tie midway through the third period, and Ilya Sorokin made 34 saves, helping the Islanders beat the aforementioned Golden Knights 2-1 for their 8th win in 9 games. And next on the docket for the Isles to visit the Winnipeg Jets on Friday. Looking ahead to NHL action tonight, the Rangers return to action at the Garden at 7 p.m., getting set to host the Boston Bruins. Finally, out of the NFL, as Super Bowl festivities continue out in New Orleans, President Donald Trump is going to the Super Bowl on a Sunday, the first sitting president to do so. The U.S. Secret Service said in a statement yesterday that it has had a staff on the ground for days preparing for his visit. Fans attending the game can expect more information in the coming days about what to expect regarding security checkpoints. Secret Service spokesman Anthony Guglielmi said in a statement. So you got to look out for big number 47, Noam.
Is he an Eagles fan, you think? Or
I doubt it.
No.
Yeah.
Chiefs?
No, I would imagine he's got to be. I mean, he's a New York guy, right?
Right,
So
you think Giants
or Jets. I mean, who knows? But I would doubt he has a lot of time on his hands to be watching much football these days. But he'll be at the Super Bowl, so we'll look out for him in one of those luxury boxes. That's your sports now. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 520. Let's go down to D.C. Two of President Trump's cabinet nominations advancing Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s nomination for head of the Department of Health and Human Services, and Tulsi Gabbard nomination for Director of National Intelligence, now moving to the Senate floor, which Republicans are happy about.
Big news is we did get out of committee Tulsi as well as Bobby Kennedy Jr. There was a couple Republicans we were kind of worried about.
That's Kansas Republican Roger Marshall celebrating yesterday. A Senate committee voted along party lines yesterday, 14-13 in favor of RFK. It was also one vote difference between for Tulsi Gabbard as well.
The Democrats are going to do everything they can to slow this down. That's why we're working weekends. We're going to do an all-nighter tomorrow. They can try to slow us down, but we're still ahead of Joe Biden's pace to get his nominees and right there at pace with what Barack Obama got done. So we know how to fight. We know how to play these games. We need to get these people across the finish line and bring these disruptors to.
All right. While we're down in Washington, the Senate preparing to move on a budget package, while House Republicans are stuck on how to push forward on that legislation.
Republican Budget Committee Chair Lindsey Graham will brief his colleagues about a resolution that will lay out a package focused on defense, border security, and energy. Republican Senator John Barrasso said House Republicans are at the moment not able to move at the level we'd like them to move. I'm Brian Shug.
Lots of talk in D.C. about President Trump's reported plan to kill the Department of Education. New Jersey Congressman Josh Gottheimer says that's insane. The Democrat vowing to join with other officials to fight against the Trump's administration effort to start defunding the Department of Education.
To not let extremists deny what our families need. There should be nothing partisan about investing in our children, in their child care, in their futures, in their education.
So we've gotten multiple reports that indicate the president's considering an executive order that could end some programs for the Department of Education and shift some initiatives to other parts of the government.
It's insane. Why would we shut down the Department of Education that invests in our children's future, especially early childhood education, not just grade school education? It makes no sense, and we will fight him. So we will fight against the president if he tries to shut down the Department of Education. We'll make it very clear that you can't, in a dictatorial fashion, just decide to shut down the Department of Education or to gut it. It puts our children's future at risk.
WABC News Time 5:23. A former Princeton University football player seriously injured in that New Orleans terror attack is going to go to the Super Bowl thanks to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles have invited Ryan Quigley to their practice facility where the veteran pass rusher Brandon Graham surprised him with 2 tickets to the big game at the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans on Sunday, where the Birds will take on the Kansas City Chiefs.
We want to tell you the real reason we brought you. It's okay if you're not feeling it, but we would love to have you down for the Super Bowl, man.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? We know it's in New Orleans, and we understand. If you up for it.
Quigley lost his best friend in the New Year's truck attack, Martin Tiger Besh, who also played football for Princeton before the two went to work at the same Manhattan brokerage firm. An emotional Quigley recalled how he had promised Tiger that he would take him to the Super Bowl if their team made it, and they were Eagles fans.
All year, after every win, which is obviously 15 of them, I told them, if we make it, I promise I'm going to take you to the Super Bowl. Yeah. So, I love him nothing more than to still take him. Y'all would have loved him. Oh,
here we go.
Let's go, baby.
Here we go, baby.
Let's go, baby. One more. Let's go.
Yeah, nice job done by the Eagles there. 524, a historically black church now owns the trademark to the name of the far-right organization, the Proud Boys.
This after a Superior Court judge in Washington, D.C. awarded ownership of the Proud Boys trademark to the Metropolitan African Methodist Episcopal Church. The decision comes after the church sued the Proud Boys for vandalism that followed a 2020 rally supporting Donald Trump. A judge awarded the church nearly $3 million in 2023 after the group failed to respond to the lawsuit. This week's decision also bars the group from trying to sell, transfer, or license the trademark without the permission of the church. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
WABC News Time 525. Let's go down to Texas. Texas lawmakers are trying to tank the work from home movement. State Senator Brandon Creighton says all studies show that working from home, remote jobs just aren't really working.
University of California found that remote workers are seen as less committed. They have worse performance reviews and they don't advance as quickly as their peers.
Yeah, so he's joined by a number of state lawmakers who are on board with this idea of syncing working remotely. He said they'll start with state workers telling them they have to come back to their office in the Capitol every single day.
This is all tied to not being able to be in person to understand verbal and nonverbal cues in meetings.
That's true. You do miss out on that by being on Zoom calls.
You're going to be less committed, less productive. The taxpayers are suffering because at a state agency, that is a terrible recipe.
And it's not just Texas lawmakers who want to kill the remote work movement. More and more companies like Amazon, AT&T, Boeing, Dell, and Walmart now requiring people to return to the office this year.
But recent research shows that return to office orders can cause even the best employees to quit. A survey by the Pew Research Center involving over 5,000 people found that almost half of hybrid and remote workers say they're unlikely to stay at a job if they have to be in the office full time. And research from ZipRecruiter suggests that companies looking to dramatically scale back on hiring are more likely to enforce RTO orders. The online job marketplace also found that these companies report higher turnovers. Meanwhile, researchers at the University of Pittsburgh found the turnover rates are especially high among women, senior, and skilled employees. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
New York's home for entertaining talk. Streaming now on your smart speaker. Just say, play 77 WABC. It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 534. Good morning. It is Wednesday, February 5th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. A mix of sun and clouds today, high 35. Tonight and overnight, we'll start to see snow showers, the low 30. And then tomorrow morning is going to be a mess of a morning commute. We will see sleet and snow in the morning. Could get an inch or two of snow here in the city, a little bit more out in the northern suburbs. And then that storm will move out late in the afternoon, and we'll have a cloudy afternoon, and it'll be in the low 30s. But make sure you're with us. We'll get you through the morning commute. If you are walking out the door with us right now, though, thank you so much. It is 27 and cloudy in Rye up in Westchester County. It's 31 and cloudy in Bordentown over New Jersey. And it's 27 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. We'll start this half hour up in the Bronx. But the truth is we could start it in all five boroughs. We're getting reports of the fact that those egg and cheese sandwiches that everybody loves to eat for breakfast, the price is going up at bodegas across the city because egg prices have spiked with the bird flu and the killing of birds. They've had to kill millions of chickens because of this bird flu that continues to spread. This one bodega owner up in the Bronx, his name is Fernando Marte. He says he cannot remember the last time he raised the price of an egg and cheese sandwich, but he said he's had no choice but to do so now.
Making the bacon, egg, and cheese, we have to increase $1. I used to charge $5. I use now $6.
Yeah, so the average price per dozen of eggs nationwide was $4.15 over the last 30 days. That's not quite as high as $4.82, which was a record set 2 years ago. But the Agriculture Department predicts prices will soar another 20% this year, which means things like the egg and cheese sandwich are going to go up. In this bodega, by the way, he sells these farm fresh eggs, these organic eggs. They're now selling, oh my, it's hard for me to imagine anybody would pay this, but they're now selling for $12 a dozen.
This type of eggs, the jumbo, they cost, we got it here for $12.49. In December, there was $4.99.
For the whole carton?
Yes, for the whole carton, $4.99.
That's crazy, from $4.99 to $12.99. Now, the price has probably spiked a little bit because you're paying the convenience fee of having those eggs at your local bodega. But nobody happy about the fact that this egg and cheese sandwich has gone up in price. A lot of bodegas across the city say they've raised their sandwiches $1.
So it's something that we cannot control. I don't know if we can bring more eggs, import eggs from somewhere else or something, but for now, the price is still going to keep,
Yeah, and we heard the same thing from bakery owners across the city saying they're raising the prices of bagels, donuts, that kind of thing, until those egg prices come back down. WABC News Time 5:38. The MTA admits to multiple failures that allowed a group of teenagers to get into that parked subway train in Brooklyn last week, take it for a joyride. At one point, the train was moving at more than 30 miles per hour. One of the boys recorded a video. Of course, everything goes up on social media. That may would have done them in, but they were riding beneath the streets of Sunset Park and potentially really could have killed or hurt someone. Aaron Morrison is a train operator, and he's outraged that these kids were able to get onto a subway train, first of all, and then actually make it move going 30 miles per hour at some point.
The onus is on the MTA to stop this because this is well-known. This is a well-known issue. So we have to get this addressed immediately.
Now, Morrison says the cab doors are routinely locked, but apparently there's this key that is standard that works on every single subway train across the transit system. And these keys are easily stolen, apparently, or you can purchase them easily on the black market. And he says, no doubt that's probably what these kids did. They bought the key. And then he says there's videos on YouTube that will show you how to drive a train, which he says they probably did as well. So in this case, the teens managed to board this R train while it was unoccupied, out of service, and then went for an unknown distance. They actually returned the train to the 36th Street station where they took off. Now, 2 of the teens have been arrested, still looking for a few more. MTA officials still unable to explain what is an obvious lapse in security.
We are having conversations internally to review safety protocols, to review, looking at the logs to, ensure that these spaces remain secured and protected.
And Alan Morrison, that train operator we heard from earlier, still says, come on, security can't be that hard to do. How are you not able to stop teenagers from getting on these trains? And he says there's all these people out there who are just obsessed with subway trains, and some of them so obsessed that they try to steal them. He said they've done this in the past, so they should come up with some sort of plan to stop it.
We have train buffs out here. We nickname them train buffs, people that watch YouTube videos and things on the internet about how to operate these trains. It's the difference between operating these trains and actually getting into them. So they have to secure these cabs and these trains so that this doesn't happen.
Yeah. 541. I was reading in the New York Post when I came in this morning. Our own Curtis Sliwa had an op-ed where he goes really hard after Andrew Cuomo, who, will likely be the guy who runs against Curtis Sliwa. If either Curtis Sliwa wins the Republican nod, Andrew Cuomo wins the Democratic primary. Cuomo, who's rumored to be weighing this run for Big Apple mayor, in this op-ed, Curtis says he needs to step up and fess up for his soft on illegal immigration legacy. And Curtis goes on to say that Cuomo needs to apologize for going after ICE agents. And then Curtis can't wait to take on Andrew Cuomo reading this op-ed. But he says that Cuomo needs to go on an apology tour for everything he messed up in New York, from going after those ICE agents to bail reform to letting these migrants come into New York. Now, we haven't officially heard from the former governor whether he's going to run. Of course, he had to resign back in 2021 after facing a slew of sexual misconduct allegations from a bunch of women. Cuomo did respond to this op-ed, by the way. A rep for Cuomo said that Curtis Sliwa cannot be taken seriously. He called him a caricature. I imagine you'll hear more about this op-ed. And apparently there was supposed to be this sit-down dinner between Andrew Cuomo and our own Sid Rosenberg last night. I don't know if that took place, but hold on, 6 o'clock, I imagine you'll hear. To New Jersey we go. Last night, the Republican debate between the Republican candidates who want to be governor of New Jersey. We heard from the Democrats Sunday night. Last night, it was more of a battle, actually, maybe more interesting to watch. This debate taking place between 4 candidates in the race at Rider University in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. Some of the candidates were trying to show how close they were to Donald Trump. So you had businessman Jack Ciattarelli, who, of course, came close to defeating Phil Murphy in the last election, going up against former talk show host Bill Spadea, both of them sparring over who has more loyalty to Donald Trump.
I've had his back from the beginning at the escalator. There's nobody that Donald Trump detests more than Chris Christie. And yet he had him on.
Yeah, okay. So the two trying to figure out who was more loyal to Donald Trump, while the other 2 candidates on stage, State Senator John Bramnick and State Senator Ed Durr, watched the two stumble over each other for their love for Trump, and they found that kind of funny.
Do you think the people of New Jersey want the debate to be who loves Donald Trump the most or who loves New Jersey the most?
Yeah, so all of the candidates said they would end New Jersey's sanctuary state status, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, but offered different opinions on transgender rights. Here's Durr, Spadea, and Ciattarelli all talking about transgender rights last night.
There will be no males, biological males, competing in female sports. I'm here to protect any and all groups, particularly marginalized groups here in New Jersey. Parental rights has to be the top priority of the next governor.
And State Senator Bramnick stood out a little bit last night when it came to trans rights as well.
Let's make sure that the Republican Party shows respect for the transgender community. We have to show people that we have a heart.
Yeah. All right. So it's going to be an interesting race in that Republican primary. Meanwhile, early voting underway in a special election in Westchester County to fill the county executive's position. Democrat Kenneth Jenkins is the interim county executive who's hoping to keep his job there.
Making sure that we're continuing to work on building more affordable housing, making Westchester more affordable as best as we can, making sure that we're holding the line on taxes.
He's facing off against Republican Christine Schulte. They're trying to fill the seat left vacant by George Latimer, who was voted into Congress in November. Republican Schulte is running for county executive, says she's better than the Democrat.
Our county is heading in the wrong direction. Spending out of control, taxes out of control, and career politicians focusing on themselves while ignoring us.
Yeah, so early voting will last through February 9th, and that special election will take place next week, February 11th. 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. It's the birthday boy, Justin Ellick. Good morning, Justin.
Thank you, Noah Mulligan. Good morning to you. We'll start here with NBA action in Toronto. Karl Anthony Towns had 27 points and 20 rebounds. Jalen Brunson scored 28 points, and the Knicks held on to beat the Raptors 121-115 for their 8th win in 10 games. Mikal Bridges and Precious Achiuwa each scored 17 points as the Knicks won their 8th straight meeting with the Raptors. Josh Hart added 15 points as all 5 Knicks starters reached double digits. Towns had nearly half of New York's 43 total rebounds. OG Anunoby didn't play against his former team. Anunoby sat for the second straight game because of a sprained right foot. Coming up next for the Knicks, they'll return home to host the Boston Celtics on Saturday. In Brooklyn, Keon Johnson and D'Angelo Russell made 3-pointers in the final 10 seconds, and the Nets stunned the Houston Rockets 99-97 for their first home victory in 2 months. Their last victory at the Barclays Center was on December 4th against Indiana. Brooklyn swept the season series from the Rockets for the first time since the 2022 season. The Nets were down by 9 points midway through the third quarter and responded with a 14-0 run in which Claxton and Tyrese Martin did all the scoring. Up next for the Nets, they'll continue their 6-game homestand tonight against Washington. Tip-off there is scheduled for 7:30 p.m. to the NHL and the Ice in Pittsburgh. Timo Meyer scored in the 7th round of a shootout to lift the Devils past the Penguins 3-2. Jack Hughes scored twice for the Devs. Nico Dawes stopped 25 shots in overtime and regulation, and then turned away 5 of the 7 Penguins he faced in the shootout as the Devils won for the 6th straight time in Pittsburgh. Up next for Jersey, they'll host Vegas come Thursday in Elmont. Brock Nelson snapped a tie midway through the third period, and Ilya Sorokin made 34 saves, helping the Islanders beat those aforementioned Vegas Golden Knights 2-1 for their 8th win in 9 games. Bo Horvat also scored for the Islanders, who improved to 11-3-0 since January 5th. New York was without top scorer Matthew Barzal, who was placed on injured reserve with a lower body injury. Sorokin improved to 20-14-4. It's a 4th straight season he has won 20 or more games. Next on the docket for the Isles, they'll visit the Winnipeg Jets on Friday. Looking ahead to NHL action tonight, the Rangers return to action at the Garden at 7 p.m., getting set to host the Boston Bruins. Finally, out of the NFL, as Super Bowl festivities continue out in New Orleans, President Donald Trump is going to the Super Bowl in New Orleans on Sunday, the first sitting president to do so. The U.S. Secret Service said in a statement yesterday that it has had staff on the ground for days preparing for his visit. Fans attending the game can expect more information in the coming days about what to expect regarding security checkpoints, Secret Service spokesman Anthony Guglielmi said in a statement. So look out for big number 47 at the Superdome in New Orleans.
You think he's just a Kendrick Lamar fan? Maybe that's what it's all about?
Doubt it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he's probably, well, you know, he's the president of the United States, but we know Donald Trump, the person, likes to seek that attention, of course. So he'll be.
So what are you saying? He's going there just to get attention?
No, I think he enjoys watching the football game, but the attention's icing on the cake.
News.
Of course it is, you know? I mean, if I were the president of the United States, I'd go to the Super Bowl.
Of course.
Just for the news headlines, of course. Yeah. So that should be exciting seeing
Don't be rude.
Don't be rude. And don't be rude. If you see the president getting a brewski, double fisting or whatever, you don't have to be rude to the president of the United States.
Be pleasant.
Okay? He's doing the best that he can. That's your sports
Home to mommy.
Exactly. I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:51. Let's go out to Long Island. Nassau County plans to designate 10 detectives to help ICE with detaining undocumented illegal migrants who have criminal records. Nassau County's Republican executive, Bruce Blakeman, announcing that the detectives will be able to detain people living in the country illegally who've committed crimes while ICE agents aren't available and, doing those raids.
This is targeted enforcement of our laws based here in the state of New York. Committed crimes here and have violated federal laws by being in the United States illegally.
Yeah, so under this move, individuals would be held at 50 county jails, and detectives will also assist with operations outside of the county, as well as be able to question people with clean records about their immigration status. The federal government will reimburse the county for their support. Nearby Queens, a body discovered in the grass off the Clearview Expressway in Queens yesterday. Passerbys noticed the body along the northbound lanes near exit 2. It was actually a disabled driver who had pulled over and a second motorist who had stopped to help them when they saw this body in the grass. And the body had its hands and feet were tied, appeared to have head trauma, possibly from a gunshot wound. Neighbors who live right off the Clearview Expressway say they didn't hear anything out of the ordinary.
It's scary. It's very scary.
Wow, that's weird. And I leave work at 10 at night. That's not good. And I always walk here.
Yes, so this man who was tied up and dead appears to be in his 20s to 30s. They haven't identified him yet.
We're here 40 years, nothing like this happened. So it's
anything. You understand? The highway is right there. The car is right there. You don't hear anything.
Medical examiner will determine the victim's cause of death.
You never know when somebody is lurking about.
Yeah.
And probably they kill him somewhere and bring the body there.
Yeah, we're waiting for some more details on this from the NYPD. A new survey shows Governor Kathy Hochul could have a rough time getting reelected.
The latest Siena College poll shows 39% of respondents view Governor Kathy Hochul favorably, but 47% don't. So how do New Yorkers really feel?
That sounds like we need a new governor, honestly. Sounds like we need somebody that they actually like, that can actually do something to help us.
That's typical. That's every politician nowadays in America, pretty much. Unless you're like a populist, you get elected off of everybody else failing. That's what everything happens.
44% approve of Hochul's job performance, but 57% of voters say they'd still like to see someone else do the job. I'm Lisa Ritchie for 77 WABC News.
There's been a huge drop in crime in New York City, that according to Mayor Adams, who notes that the city had the lowest number of shooting incidents in the month of January since the tracking started more than 30 years ago.
Shootings were also down 22% last month, continuing the steady decrease we've seen, and we've removed over 20,000 illegal guns off our streets.
New stats show overall index crime went down 17% in the Big Apple for January compared to January of last year. Subway crime down 34%. Now, this is obviously no doubt to good police work. Let's give them the credit. But it also, you remember how many days it was so frigidly cold outside? Nobody wanted to be outside. It was so cold. That probably helped with the crime numbers as well. Former Paterson, New Jersey Mayor Joey Torres sentenced to 3 years probation for launching a mayoral campaign despite being barred from going into politics.
Torres was ousted as mayor and permanently banned from public employment after pleading guilty to federal bribery and corruption charges in 2017. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison for using city employees to work at a liquor distributorship his family planned to open and bilking the city out of overtime pay. Despite all this, Torres ran again for mayor in 2022. He's pleaded guilty to contempt of court charges as of December, and he's been fined $10,000. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
It is not easy to be a cabbie in New York City. First, you got the competition from all the app-based ride-share companies like Lyft and Uber. And then for all these drivers, always the question is, most of these guys do like a 12-hour shift. You can't make money unless you do a 12-hour shift. So during the course of a 12-hour shift, you have to go at some point. And the hardest thing for these cab drivers, they say, is to find a place to use the bathroom and a place to park their car without getting slapped with a ticket. It happens all too often.
You go park over there, you go use bathroom. 1 second, they give ticket $150. They don't give no chance.
Just, park the car like a minute. I don't know, somebody just give me a picture and send it to the TLC or to the motor vehicle. I just get some.
Yeah, so they say they pull over for 5 minutes. Sometimes they can't find a legal spot, but it's all about running into a place where they know they can use the bathroom. So what they're proposing is an interesting idea, that the city give them a placard that they could put in the window that would give them 10 minutes to park illegally and go run in and use a bathroom. It seems kind of like a humane thing to do. Somebody's on a 12-hour shift, let them park illegally so they can use the job.
When you have prostate issues, when you have diabetes, when you have kidney issues, and you're sitting down for 12 hours and you got to go when you got to go. You know, it is just criminal what they're doing to drivers.
Yeah, I mean, I can see their potential for the abuse with these 10-minute cards, but 10 minutes, if somebody really wanted to give them a ticket, they could wait 10 minutes and they don't come back, slap them with a ticket. One other idea that the TLC's come up with is the idea of having putting up trailers across the city that have bathrooms that also have parking spots. That could work too.
Trying to make a living, it's hard already, and you worry about somebody giving you a ticket for even buying a coffee or going to the bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem a little ridiculous.